Does President Trump have a foreign policy? And if so, what is it? He's pushed a Ukraine peace plan that critics say could have been written in Moscow, but now he's moved towards Ukraine's position. He escalated a bombing campaign against the Houthis in Yemen, but recently announced a ceasefire. He was all in with Israel on Gaza, but now has cut a deal with Hamas, lifted sanctions on Syria, and is negotiating with Iran against Israel's wishes. And he's pulling back from NATO. He's also announcing business deals in the Middle East. So, Ty, what is our overarching goal? What is the goal of this administration in foreign policy?
Yeah, well, I think you just, that list that you had, there's no way I'm going to figure out how to link all those things together in 30 seconds. I'll tell you that right now. So he is a disruptor. Some of the things are terrible. The idea that America's losing its, I think it's moral way, going after Canada and Mexico and other places, making NATO, which is the greatest military alliance in human history, going away from that. But there have been some things that are more positive. I think the idea that he's not meeting with Netanyahu as he's going to the Middle East and saying that there is a difference between Israeli policy and American policy is good. I don't know what's going to come with Iran. I mean, but will Iran continue to go with the Houthis? I don't know that. I think there is also some good that he's doing in Africa. Rubio has brokered a deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, using business as the way of doing that. That's been one of the most deadly conflicts on the earth, and they're looking that may get a way through that. So there are some positives in there, but it's America's moral center, I think, that's taken the hit.
Well, the idea of being a disruptor, I mean, we have sometimes a certain stasis in our foreign policy approach, and he's changing things.
Yeah, well, this is what I think his foreign policy is. Peace without principles. And here's what I mean by that.
Put that on a bumper sticker. Huh?
Here's what I mean by that. Right now, it's not peace, not strategic peace in the United States' best interest. It's peace for the sake of the Nobel Peace Prize. He is out there searching to be this grand influencer and to be the disruptor that doesn't do what everyone thinks you're supposed to do. He was desperate in Kashmir to claim credit for the walking back of hostilities between India and Pakistan, two nuclear-armed powers who were starting to go at it in a long-running conflict. And he tried to basically claim by a Truth Social post that he had brokered this deal, right? Now he's shaking hands with Ahmed al-Sharaa, who's the president of Syria, also was Zarqawi's right-hand man in Iraq for al-Qaeda in Iraq and committed war crimes throughout the Syrian war. He's now shaking hands with him, lifting sanctions, trying to show that he can do these new and novel things. He's trying to put it out there so that he can look good. And we have no idea what this actually looks like in terms of foreign policy. And the problem is countries like Russia are in a position to take advantage of us when we do things like that.
Okay, so I'm going to come at this from a little bit of a different perspective, okay? And not to sort of, be devil's advocate here, but to just sort of offer a different angle, which is that no president has ever had a singular foreign policy focus, that there are always multiple goals. There is the humanitarian interest, the national security, the promoting democracy, the national welfare and prosperity. And so it's a question of time, place, and circumstances that dictate what should be the most important. Now, whether or not Trump should prioritize prosperity, not so much peace, is, something that I think history will judge. But we are clear that his overarching goal, his overarching framework is to make more money. And does that really surprise any of us in that we have hired a real estate mogul to be president of the United States? And he pretty much said as much throughout his speeches. Just a couple of things here. He said that his look at the Middle East right now is to forge a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos. In talking about the India and Pakistan conflict, he said, I told them, hey, folks, let's make a deal. Sounds like Donald Trump, right? And then in terms of bombing the Houthis and pulling back on that, it's only where American commercial ships are concerned, not our allies and not Israel. And so it fits with what Trump is, who he is, but also the president that we collectively voted for.
And he's in the Middle East right now announcing many deals.
Yes, and he traveled with all the country's most powerful and wealthy CEOs, which was quite extraordinary. So I think it's absolutely right. He's thinking about this through a perspective of his own experiences, which is what presidents do. He doesn't have 20, 30 years of public service to rely on, where he's carved out policy areas that he cares deeply about and principles, to Aaron's point. So instead, he's thinking about investment. A lot of his foreign policy trips, I think, are about networking, right? He'll talk a big game when it comes to Iran and other countries, but he just wants to get in the room with the leaders, get to know them. He has no problem doing business with Russia and Saudi Arabia and these types of things, to Aaron's point as well. So the one thing I do think his legacy will be defined by is tariffs, right? I don't see that going away. It's the one consistent political position he's had for 30 years. I don't see him changing that, and I think history will remember that part of his presidency in terms of foreign policy the most.
And tariffs are foreign policy. And I think that's the other thing they're doing, that it is creating problems with our foreign policy that are not going to go away anytime soon.
So speaking then of tariffs and China, and there have been big changes this past week. I mean, is he backing off? Is that just adjusting to real politics?
Well, it's still so high. I mean, 30% is just a crazy high amount. So I think we're going to continue to, maybe he's going to go lower. And this is the thing. How can you make a business decision knowing that he's going to change his mind and there's nobody else in the room to make him change his mind? So I think just the uncertainty. Disruptor is one thing, chaos is another, and he brings chaos.
So I've been wondering whether he has a strategy or whether it's just reacting to opportunities that come up.
Yeah, I think, and again, giving this the most sort of generous interpretation that I can, is that he seems to have finally settled upon something like a strategy that's centered around the interests of his that we've talked about. There were a lot of, false starts, a lot of sort of sputtering and figuring his way out, but now he seems to be settling in. I will say one other thing that he's settled in on and that he's been very clear about is that his version of America First means America will no longer be the world police. Now, we've seen other administrations move in that direction. He's been very explicit. In addition to that, he's also not been very concerned about human rights. There's no talk about human rights except for the rights of white South Africans, and also very little concerned about women's rights as he's buddying up to Syria.
We'll have to, in another program, get back to that point about the Afrikaners coming to the U.S. as refugees.